Picture this. It's tens of thousands of years ago. The light is gone, the air is cold, and the only warm thing for miles is the fire in front of you. You're leaning close to it, and every time the wind shifts, a thick ribbon of smoke rolls straight into your lungs. You cough, you blink, and then, for reasons you can't explain, you lean back in anyway. Now, you and I have options these ancestors didn't. We have heating, we have chimneys, we have entire industries dedicated to making sure smoke goes up and away from our faces. If a room fills with smoke today, we evacuate the building. Back then, that was just Tuesday. Smoke wasn't an emergency, smoke was the roommate. And somewhere in all those thousands of nights, one of your ancestors did something no animal had ever done. They looked at that curling smoke, felt whatever it was doing to them, and thought, not in words, but in instinct, do that again, on purpose. That single tiny decision might be the beginning of one of the oldest habits our species has ever had. Because here's what almost nobody realizes. Smoking doesn't begin with cigarettes. It doesn't begin with tobacco or trade ships or ancient ceremonies. The urge to pull smoke into your body on purpose may be older than farming, older than cities, older than civilization itself. And the deeper you dig, the more it looks less like a bad habit, and more like something wired into the human brain. So let's throw out the story you think you know, the one where smoking is a modern vice, invented by bored people with too much free time. That's backwards. To find the real origin, you don't look forward to factories, you look back to the very first thing humans ever tamed, fire. Because before you can smoke anything, you need fire, and humans have lived with fire for an absurdly long time. The oldest solid evidence of a controlled fire, not a wildfire but a deliberate one kept burning inside a cave, comes from Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, dating back roughly 1,000,000 years. 1,000,000 years. Back then we weren't even our own species yet. That was Homo erectus, an older cousin with a smaller brain and, apparently, excellent taste in campfires. And here's the part that changes everything. Every single one of those ancestors for hundreds of thousands of years sat in the smoke. Every night. There was no other option. If you wanted warmth, safety, or a cooked meal, you sat in a cloud of the stuff and you breathed it. Smoke wasn't a choice. It was the price of survival. And that constant daily exposure set the stage for everything that came next. Because not all smoke is just wood smoke. When you burn a plant, you don't only get ash and heat, you get chemistry. Depending on what's burning, that smoke can carry compounds that talk directly to the human nervous system. Some plants, growing wild across Africa, Europe, and Asia, release chemicals that change how you feel. Which means some of our ancestors were, almost certainly, getting mildly high next to the fire and had no idea why the evening suddenly got better. And this is the part that should genuinely unsettle you. Your brain already has receptors built to respond to some of these compounds, not because of any plant. They're part of a system that quietly runs your mood, your memory, and your appetite every single day. But it means that when a human first inhaled certain smoke, their brain didn't reject it as foreign. It recognized it. The lock was already there. The plant was just the key. Now, a fair question. If this is so ancient, where's the proof? The honest answer, it mostly rotted. Stone tools survive for millions of years because stone is basically forever. But a wooden pipe, a pouch of dried leaves, a handful of seeds, those vanish into the dirt in a few centuries. So the absence of ancient evidence isn't proof it didn't happen. It's just the ground doing what the ground does. But we do have clues. The Greek writer Herodotus described a nomadic people called the Scythians, who built small sealed tents, heated stones until they glowed, threw hemp onto them, and sat inside breathing the smoke. And in his words, shrieking with joy. For centuries, scholars assumed he was exaggerating. Then archaeologists dug into Scythian burial mounds and found exactly what he described. The braziers, the heated stones, the hemp residue. Turns out he wasn't making it up. If anything, he undersold it. Then there's tobacco, the plant most of us actually picture. Tobacco is native to the Americas, so the rest of the world had never seen it until 1492. When European sailors arrived, they watched people inhale smoke from burning leaves and breathe it out through their noses, and were completely baffled. Then, naturally, they tried it. But in the Americas, tobacco wasn't a habit. It was sacred. Smoke carried prayers upward. It sealed agreements. It was medicine and ceremony, treated with a respect that had nothing to do with a nervous cigarette on a lunch break. And then we found something that pushed the whole timeline back even further. In the Great Salt Lake Desert in Utah, researchers uncovered an ancient hearth around 12,000 years old, and inside it, the seeds of a wild tobacco plant, concentrated in a way that looked deliberate, not accidental. 12,000 years ago, long before pipes or pottery, someone was already putting tobacco into a fire on purpose. And if people did that in North America, what was everyone else on Earth doing with their local plants at the same time? This points to something bigger. Across nearly every human culture ever recorded, people found ways to alter their minds. Drinking, chewing, inhaling. It's so universal that some scientists argue the drive to change your own consciousness is a basic biological urge, sitting right beside hunger and thirst. And it's not even just us. Elephants seek out fermented fruit. The pull toward an altered state isn't a human flaw, it's a pattern that runs through life itself, which is a polite scientific way of saying your ancestors weren't the first ones at the party, they just brought the fire. And smoke wasn't only about feeling good. Some of the oldest medical texts on Earth describe inhaling herbal smoke to treat the lungs and throat, which sounds insane today, but some of those plants really did have effects. And there was another payoff, maybe the most important one: bonding. Humans survived in groups, and anything that pulled a group tighter had real value. A circle of people sharing the same smoke, the same altered evening, walked away, trusting each other more. That wasn't just a ritual, it was the social glue that kept fragile little tribes alive. Which makes what happened next kind of tragic. Something that spent tens of thousands of years sacred, medicinal, and communal got handed to industry, and turned into a product engineered to hook you as fast and as hard as possible. The same plant a shaman treated as a bridge to the divine became a machine-rolled cigarette sold to teenagers. Same smoke, completely different soul. So, when did humans start smoking? The truth is, we'll probably never pin down the exact night. The artifacts take us back 12,000 years, and the instinct behind it reaches back toward fire itself. It may be as old as the moment a human first looked at a burning plant and connected a simple, powerful idea. Last time this happened, I felt something. Let me do it again. That's not addiction. That's the exact spark of curiosity that made us human. So the next time you catch wood smoke drifting on a cold night and feel something ancient stir, that's not nothing. That's 100,000 years of your ancestors, sitting by the fire, doing the one thing every human has always done: breathing,